If you don't have it, you're actually not steering the ship in any one direction. That's shiny squirrel syndrome of like chasing these things, attracting the wrong people, attracting the wrong clients. So having that vision, having that why absolutely drives you. When you do align people with that, when you give them an opportunity to work to their strengths, to adopt that culture of continuous improvement, studies suggest that you can get up to 8% improvement on productivity.
Blake, man, big thank you for coming on and chatting with me today on the podcast. Really appreciate it. From Evocativ, and I think there's no one better than you, definitely not me, to, I guess, talk about what you guys do and why you're passionate about it. And then I want to jump straight into what we were sort of discussing a bit there before off camera in regards to vision and why it is so important. But I guess Evocativ, what do you guys do and why are you so passionate about it?
I think the best place to start is our vision.
Yeah.
And on the back of my shirt it says, I believe in a world where people wake up feeling purposeful and inspired to do something they're passionate about on a daily basis. That's what we believe in. That's the world that we're embarking on, that we believe can happen. Might not happen in our life, but we believe it can happen. And you sent a message the other day about what's your North Star, or like aligning to that North Star. The reason that's so important to us is in 2015, myself, Joseph and Kyle, we attended 6 funerals for 6 of our mates, for 6 mental health related deaths. And at 19, we had no idea what to do. We turned to probably all the wrong things: partying, drugs, drinking, working, all the things that probably aren't the best to do to grieve and to get through that. But you're 19, what else do you know? And over the next sort of 4 to 8 years, we lived our lives. That was how we lived it. I had started my own business as an auto electrician in the mining industry. And I worked out the other day, I worked in 7 years, it was like 18,480 hours. And I'm kind of proud of that, but also aware that everything that was that opposite side of that was not so great. So my relationships with my family, neglected. My health, neglected. Sleep, what was sleep? Right? So started to really appreciate all the things that I wasn't doing to look after myself. And fortunately enough, at 24, been in my business for 3 years, earned over $1 million, which was great. I was just a solo guy, but I had everything around me was falling apart, and I just wasn't aware of it, wasn't conscious of it. And I'd always, well, not always, from 19, I had a vision for myself to be 25, have my own business where I have freedom of 3 things. I wanted freedom of finance, freedom of choice, and freedom of time. And
did you get there?
I got there.
Yeah.
I got there.
Well done.
On my 25th birthday, I realized it. I was on the phone to my best mate, and I'd just gone through a 7-year relationship separation, and that chaos of that was enough to send you in a spiral. But I got to my 25th birthday, I was on the phone to my best mate, and I was like, it just clicked. Like, that had to happen for me. That had to happen so I could get to that point of freedom, that choice of freedom. And we just launched Evocativ 2 months prior to that.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, 2 months prior to that. And unknowing to us at the time where we wanted to take it, we launched it as a clothing label. So we talk about vision and evolution and trying to find your groove into what you actually want to do. But fortunately enough, that evolution led us to found or start our very first fundraiser event for mental health. And we ran 100 kilometers. So from Gold Coast to Byron Bay.
And you do that every year now?
We do that every year now, So this will be
when's the next one coming up?
23rd of September. So like 4 weeks away.
You've been training for it?
Yeah, I've been training.
Nice.
I've been training. Last year I jumped off a boat and I ran for like 2 weeks and then ran it. So it's all a head game. And I think that's the power of the vision, right? So that vision for that project is to prove there's an end to even your darkest days. And condensing
I'm having some temporary time off.
Condensing your dark days into this crazy event that condenses all of that into, like, for us, it's about 18 hours because our only objective is to support every person to get as far as they can.
Yeah.
And we've
That's
first
cool.
year.
That's so different from any other kind of race.
It's so special. And I didn't recognize that until last year. I mean, so I was only the second year, but until last year. And it was really special. Like, the first year was running, I was physically capable that year. Mm-hmm. And I remember before we left getting everyone's why. I had a bunch of different questions that I sent out, 5 questions, like, what was your training up till now? How's it been? What are you most nervous for? Why is mental health important to you? And throughout the run, everyone's like falling into we had 12 people falling into the pits of their pain and their suffering. And fortunately enough, I had their why. You know, one of them was like, I want to prove to myself that I can get through this so I don't have to turn to drinking and alcohol when I'm struggling. And the other guy, Dylan, had on his shoe his best mate, Sam. And we were at Brunswick, so we were about 85 Ks in. And we're in the locker.
That is a dark cave.
The sun is just beaming.
Oh.
And he was like, I don't know if I'll be able to finish this. And I was like, just look down at his shoe.
It's pretty close.
And I was like, man, what about Sam? He's like, yeah. And so Sam, one of his best mates, attempted to leave this world like 2 weeks prior. He's still here. He's still with us.
Oh, great.
And
good.
Having that vision, having that why, having that purpose behind what you do
can really drive you.
Absolutely drives you. And I believe our hypothesis is if you don't have it, you're actually not steering a ship in any one direction. You like that shiny squirrel syndrome of like chasing these things, attracting the wrong people, attracting the wrong clients.
Yeah.
And it's uber important to find it. And hopefully we can share some vision on that. So that's what we do now is helping businesses and teams and individuals, not just to find their purpose or their vision. Definitely part of it. That's sort of one of our 3 pillars is that purpose piece. The other 2 are the understanding, appreciation for yourself and others. So that's empathy. And then the vehicles that advance your cause, which is action. So
one thing that really, I think, got my attention was because we're dealing with business owners all the time. That's who we mostly talk to in the building space. So working with those builders, especially the high achievers, those that want to achieve great things and reach their goals and their visions. A lot of them understand to some degrees how important mindset is. And I think when we were talking, you're like, well, you're all for that, but you go a step further and go, well, it's all great having the leader have a great mindset, but what about the team? You know, what if you can teach your whole team to have a strong mindset? Imagine what that would do to an organization. And I was like, what? I don't know why I'd never thought like that, you know, but crazy. So let's jump in to today. Topic, there's sort of 3 rough sort of topics I want to talk about. But number 1 is vision and why it's crucial to have a vision. If someone came up to you off the street and goes, well, you're all about vision. I don't really have a vision. I just, one of those people, take it as comes, whatever I get dealt, that's how it is. I don't see the purpose in having a vision. How do you, you have a great soft nature. You're not going to just, dictate to them. But how do you engage in that kind of conversation?
I've never had that question or that conversation per se. I'm reading a book at the moment, The Advice Trap. And we were talking about this just before.
Yeah.
And
Adam Grant?
Nah, this one is Michael Stubley.
Michael Stubley. Okay.
Michael Stainer. Adam Grant was Think Again, which is...
That's right. That was you talking about.
Curious, remaining curious and create hypotheses and navigate that landscape of supporting them and remaining curious. But this book is teaching me or reteaching me to ask more questions. So I think the biggest thing that we can do in any pursuit of finding a vision or a cause or is just starting at the practical level. Simon Sinek talks about it in his book. Start with why, the golden circle. The So you got the 3 rings,
Yeah.
the why, the how, and the what, which is essentially what I just did at the start.
Yeah.
Like our vision,
Yeah.
how we do it, and then the what with the coaching, the podcast, the full day trainings and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So most people and most businesses understand what they do. So it would just be a series of questions like, oh, well, what do you like to do? Oh, I don't really know. Or I like to surf. Oh, cool. How long have you been surfing for? And you start going down that path and get them to start talking about things that they know about. One thing that I've become really conscious of over the last probably 2 months to probably 6 weeks to 2 months, which has been really cool for me, is hearing the subtle tonal changes of people when they start talking about stuff that they really enjoy.
Yeah, right.
So I would start to listen
when you start asking these sort of questions.
When you start asking these sort of questions, yeah. And like, oh, how long have you been surfing for? How does that make you feel when you do that? How is it that you could do more surfing? Or if we're talking about mainly construction companies, oh, we build houses. Oh yeah, well, how do you build houses? Like, what makes you special? What makes the way that you do it unique? And then you start to stumble on that. And it's like, oh, okay, well, why should someone come to you? Why would I choose you over someone else? Oh, because of this, and this. And why did you start in the first place? Well, I wanted to make sure that my neighbor had a builder and they were crap and their roof fell off, and I don't want anyone's roof to ever fall off. Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. So then you start going down that avenue.
Yeah. And how often do you find, I know we find this, because that's one thing I also really bonded with you on, was just your emphasis on vision. Like that, before we touch a camera, before we do anything here with any of our builders, it's, let's get clear on the vision. Where do you want this company to be in a year, 2, 3 from now, 5 years from now? But then we, definitely dive into that why otherwise. And that's what we find to be, that's at the core, what is going to really help differentiate you, is your why. And we're yet to come across, like the amount of builders we talk to and work with, we are yet to come across any 2 builders that are the same. But if you don't go to the why, you don't get that. If you go to that surface level, like the what makes you different. And I was talking down in Sydney the other week about this. Do you say, well, we do top quality, and we do, we're good communicators, and we got a great team, and we, what's the other one? We care about this like it's our own. It's like, cool, man. The guy next door said that too. So but until I drive down into your why and understand who you are, then how can I resonate with you on that deeper level?
And why those 3 points you just brought up, why are they important to you? How do you live that out? What's the, then you start looking about the values and the integrity of the organization. We call it, when we do it with businesses, the code of honor. Yeah. So the standard that we walk past is the standard we accept. How can we create standards that we're proud of and that we can praise our team on, but also call our team out on as well? And, those little things help us to remain in line with that vision.
Why, in specific to a business, why do you think vision is so important?
It's like your infinite goal. It's like the GPS that you used to have on your dashboard, which now is in your phone. It's the destination that you want to strive for. It's less of a goal, more of an impact.
Break that down for me.
So we go through this framework called why. So it's, what is your goal? So a business, for example, one of our clients, NB Industries, they're in the mining industry, about 95 employees. And they had an ad on LinkedIn. Yeah. And it was a generic ad of like, we want a diesel fitter. Yeah. We got a great team. We care about this, and this. And we have positions available with OEM and da-da-da. Yeah. Stuff we've all seen before, and we're all like, cool, I'll apply for that. Or that sounds like everyone else. I'm just going to be another number. Yeah. And we were able to
apply for this and 5 others.
Yeah.
Just see what lands.
I'll go to the interview if they call me, whatever. I'm not attached to anything in this business. Yeah. And what I did was I took that golden circle concept and we did a full day workshop with them like 2 weeks prior. So I had their individual values written down and the action statements for them. And I put together this 3-word or 3-paragraph little blurb, which is like innovating the mining and technology services. Are you someone who cares about looking out for your team, looking out for your tribe? Wears your heart on your sleeve and want an organization that will respect you and support you through your decisions. If you're a diesel fitter in this area and want to work with this sort of stuff and hone your skills, then apply below.
Wow, what a difference.
Such a difference. And they blew their minds.
Yeah.
And when I asked them, I was like, why did that make you feel a certain way? And they're like, well, you just spoke about this impact that we can have. Less of a person that we want, but a person that can elicit this change or this impact in our community. And so it's kind of like, that's why it's important. Because now you're not just attracting, in their case, a diesel fitter, you're attracting an individual that believes in something that we believe in. And therefore your interview process is smoother. Your ability to have that person and call them out on certain things and have them perform at a level that you're proud of, it's way easier.
That just blew my mind. Just, changing the definition like that. Especially for a role such as a diesel fitter, which you would never think, you're like, why would you bother? It's you either do it or you don't, or you black and white. But that's
so that's one way you can use it. Like another one of our clients, Dawson's, did the exact same process. Dawson Contractors here on the Gold Coast, and walked them through the same golden circle. Like, we don't invent all of our processes; we just found a way to deliver them. And it was the same thing, but I was like, well, how can we show them how this is useful? Like we said, you could use this for employing. And they're like, oh, well, right now we're not really looking to employ. I was like, okay, cool. So I went away and looked at their About Us on their website, just put in a few little changes based on our conversation, said, here's another spot you can use it. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So like all your language starts to come from this world that you believe in. You start to attract the right people. You start to feel more positive about it. You start to hone this impact that you want to have on your community and in the world. And that's where, when it comes to well-being and mental health, or mental fitness as we call it, you have something that you're proud of and aspiring to. Therefore, you have to write it below the mental health line. Is like you have something to strive for, to live for. I think that's super important.
Working with the organisations you work with, I can imagine what the answer might be. But how often do you come across a business where they go, here's my mission statement, and they just don't even know how to live them out? There's such a disconnect.
Very often. How often? Very often.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. Like
have you ever had, sorry to interrupt, but you have someone who goes, oh yeah, we have a mission statement. It's, where is it? Here it is, where it's like, you should know that, man.
Yeah. And it becomes, if we take that golden circle, and Simon Sinek talks about it, and I love referencing him. He's like my idol. Yeah. And he says your why then becomes your microphone. So it's the way that you start to talk to people, to your audience, to the world. And so I see it all the time. And it's less upsetting, but it's more, there's such a better outcome if you just get curious about it and start to ask the questions. And that's what I think the beauty of like what you're doing with Biz Video and organizations like ours at Evocativ, and there's heaps of other awesome places out there that do this sort of incredible work. And we certainly didn't invent it.
Yeah, no, definitely not. The same goes for our builders. They didn't invent how to build. They're just vehicles for doing it better.
And that it often starts with, like, we love to talk about vision, what we want in the future, but we like to really go back in time. Like, why did you start the business in the first place? Okay, well, let's navigate that landscape. What's the evolution look like? How has it evolved, and why have these evolutions been important? Oh, it's about the community and about giving back and da-da-da-da-da. Like, okay, well, why is that important to you? And on the call, on that one with MB Industries we did, one of the HR lady, we really did the 5 whys on one of her
big fans of that.
on one of her questions or one of her statements. And ultimately, the first thing was like, oh, well, we want to provide a brilliant service for our clients.
Yeah.
Why is that important? Oh, so they can go home and feel safe that their vehicle's in good condition. Why is that important? Well, so their family get to see their husband every night. Why is that important? And just like broke that down. She's like, well, because if a parent doesn't come home because their car breaks down, like, there's a disconnect in the family, and that's shit. Like, okay, well, that's why you do it. Like, oh, okay.
Wow, that's a big difference when
So
that's
it's
your why.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, we don't just service cars anymore. We're making sure people come home so they don't have disconnections with their family. It's like, shit, I'll get out of bed for that.
Yeah. Definitely, man. Definitely.
Right.
Wow. Okay, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, like, vision. We're going to jump onto other areas where vision is important in the business, but one thing listening to you and some of the reading I've been doing recently was just like, man, you can't just have vision in business. Life isn't just business. Life is life. There's life outside the office, and not that they're separate. They kind of flow together. That's what I think.
I agree.
How important is it for to have a personal vision, and for that vision to align with, let's say, the vision of the business?
Mm-hmm. There was a study done by, do you like facts?
Love
Stats, yeah. So there was a study done by Qualtrics.
Who?
Qualtrics?
Qualtrics, okay.
Yeah, they're like a massive organization, like Gardner and
Yep,
Gorlap.
okay. Yep.
And it was of 2,100 individuals, and they found that when an individual is aligned with the company vision, mission, and values, there was 3 alarming stats that stood out to me. The first one was that they're 70% more likely to find enjoyment and satisfaction in their work. They're 33% less likely to leave, and they're 72% more likely to recommend it as a great place to work. So those 3 things to me meant that when we're aligned with the company mission and vision and values, we actually care about what happens. So we feel better about ourselves, and therefore we feel more attached and inclined to do a fantastic job at work. That in turn gives us a sense of pride, sense of achievement, sense of accomplishment, therefore improving our well-being, our energy when we go home with our relationships, therefore improving our ability to want to wake up, our ability to want to train, to do better, to continually improve. And so it's like, there's probably nothing more important than having that alignment. Because if you don't, like, have you ever worked a job that you didn't feel aligned to the company?
Yep.
How did you feel every day?
Didn't know when to go to work.
How did that impact your life?
Asked my wife. This was many years ago, but
Yeah.
I had, your Sunday blues. I had Friday blues, knowing that I had to go back Monday.
Right? So it's like, can save your marriage. Right? Like, that's how friggin' important it is.
Yeah, wow.
And like, there would be millions of other stories similar to that. Like, for me, I was working in the mining industry, working 360 days a year, ended a 7-year relationship because of it. Well, I didn't end it. I was broken up with.
Yeah.
Right? Because I wasn't acting in alignment with these visions and values that I had. I was just solely focused on work.
Yeah.
And so I neglected everything else. So I think it's just
important.
The thing there, then, an activity that we do is called bridging the gap.
Okay.
So like you said before, it's really important that the leadership team and the business has its own vision. But what we found is equally as important, if not more, because individuals or people determine the success and failure of a business, right?
Yeah.
People run businesses, not robots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what we do is the company work with the leadership team to help them find that vision and values and all the other stuff. But then helping the individuals to find theirs. What's their
I was
North
just about to
Star?
ask you, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, it's the same process.
Okay.
It's very much the same process. What's your goal? Why is that important? What's the impact that's going to have on your life, on your family? How's that going to feel when you achieve it? What's the consequences if you don't do it? Could be the marriage ends. Could be that you drink every night and you're a piece of shit to your kids and your family, right? Could be that you get diabetes. It could be that you freaking drive your car over the edge of the road one time because you're overworking and undersleeping. Could be a multitude of different things. So bridging that gap, so doing a workshop of like, well, this is a company vision, this is yours. Can you now see that by working here, you're actually helping to...
I can see there, though, how important it then goes back to the company, to the business, to get clear on their vision. Because if they don't go deep enough, then it makes it very hard for the individual to align their personal vision with the company. It's like, am I just here to push you around in your fancy car? Because that's what I'm seeing, as opposed to the example you gave earlier, it's helping families stay connected. Well, I'm a part of a family, and for my family to stay connected is pretty important. And so if I'm living in a community where there are more connected families, that's pretty...
Boom. Yeah, I'll work here.
Yeah, Blake, just mic drop.
Oh, man. Right, so, it's essential to an individual to align with the company. And that's where we talk about the benefits to an organization of knowing that is to attract the right people. Yeah. And then the yin and yang of all that, navigating that.
I'm keen to take that because there's a big part of when we work with our builders, there's that vision exercise, which is for them, the directors, the leaders, to then go, okay, well, like I said earlier, where are we taking the company and what's the vision, the impact we want to have? But then there's a team module that comes after that where, and for us, it's, we pre-record the video so they can watch it with their team. The leader can then explain or walk them through the vision and get them to emotionally buy in. And then there's a whole framework there for them to work together so that they are actively aligning their visions. But I think we could definitely dial it up just hearing you talk.
Let's collaborate.
Let's do it.
Let's do something together. Like, we're in the same space helping different, as businesses, different visions and outcomes for what we want to create. But collectively it starts at the same spot. Right, so let's do it.
A lot of builders feel like they attract the wrong clientele that only focus on price. They never seem to get the projects that they are truly passionate about and that are also profitable. Builders love working with us because we help them create an emotional connection with their ideal clients through the power of story and help them build long-term trust through their marketing system. If you're a builder and if you feel like you need help, book in a story strategy session with our team by visiting builderstorymarketing.com. Now back to this episode.
This next topic, which is having the right people around you. How important is that? And expand.
Les Brown. Have you heard of Les Brown?
The name I've heard of.
He's a motivational speaker from America. Old school, like one of the OG guys. And I was fortunate enough to see him in Phoenix, Arizona when I was 20. So I was over there for a network marketing conference. And one of his sayings is, birds of a feather flock together. If you hang around with losers, you'll become a loser. But equally, if you hang around with winners, you'll become a winner. Yeah. And so if you think about that and thinking about the importance of finding your tribe or finding or surrounding yourself with the right people that doesn't necessarily have to be in line with the world that you want to create, but where I find is most apparent and most obvious is at least aligned to similar values. And I tell a really cool story, an analogy, and I want you to think about, like, you're walking through a forest and you're on this like gravel road. Yeah, close your eyes. If you're not driving,
I'll close my eyes.
If you're driving, don't close your eyes. If you're at home listening, close your eyes. And there's this tree. And you look up and this tree is, you can't even see the top of it because the foliage is just so thick and it's so tall. And you go to wrap your arms around it. And your arms barely even get to the sides. It's humongous. And you start to get curious of, what are the roots? Like, what's below the surface? What's holding this tree up? And then you sort of take a couple of steps back and really mesmerize this tree. And then you start walking along the gravel road again. And take about 200 meters, 300 meters, and you come to this this stop, and there's a tree, similar circumference, laying across the path. And you look at the base of it that's no longer in the ground, it's uprooted, and you start to get curious about how it fell down. How come it's no longer standing? And the analogy was your values and your core beliefs are like the roots of a tree. They hold you up, they keep you strong, they help you to navigate life. And if you are misaligned with values or surround yourself with the wrong people or simply are just unaware of what's actually important to you and how you live that out, eventually you could be like the tree that falls over.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're in the wrong environments with the wrong weather system or the wrong susceptible influences, you can fall over and become unstable and make mistakes. And so it's really important to have that alignment of your values with your core people. Sure, you can dabble over here and have some fun over there, but ultimately if you attract, similar to like business, right? If you're aligned to that, I don't know the stats on it, but you're going to feel way more positive, and that's really important.
I mean, you probably see as well when you talking to just people around you, all business owners, if those are hanging around with winners and losers, you can see how that impacts them and affects them. But as a business owner and a leader, you also are in a very, I think, opportunistic and blessed position to be able to choose the team that you put around you to take your business from sole trader to, you know, a company with multiple employees. This is one thing when I said, you know, I'd love to have you on the podcast, and I gave you some topics to talk about, being vision, the main one. I said, there are like this and this I want to talk about. And you were like, yeah, cool. But you came back and said, well, it's really important then for, you got there on your phone?
I will have it.
Yeah. I sent it back to you yesterday. And just your articulation of, I was like, man, that is so, is the word pertinent? Just so perfect for what I think a lot of our builders need to hear, because I think a lot of them, definitely over the last couple of years with everything that's been going on in the industry, but just ongoing, attracting and retaining the right kind of team and creating the right kind of culture. You have it there?
Yeah, a vision that attracts the right people and inspires them to continually improve and perform.
Yeah. I think that's like that's like the unicorn that I think a lot of business owners look for, is someone who's willing to jump in, be a part of the culture, and never stop learning and growing. How have you seen the impact of vision in creating that kind of culture? And a culture where, because when you said that, I took it a step further, because I've met a few, you know, only a handful of business owners that have created such a culture where there is a line out the door of people who want to join their team. And it's ultimate. But yeah, how have you seen that impact play out?
Admittedly, probably haven't been doing it long enough to have any anecdotal evidence. One of the things that we incorporate in our Evocativ system, which is our eight-step process to perform at elite level and not drop below the mental health line, is C in Evocativ is continuous improvement. So instead of just being hopeful that your vision and values and having empathy and action will align people, because it definitely will, but how can we encourage the process to continually improve, to create goals and to understand each other's weaknesses and blind spots and have those conversations of, well, what are your strengths? And there was another study done by Gorlup that was an individual that's worked to their strengths are 3 times more likely to find a sense of achievement at work, and their productivity increases by 8%. So I did the maths on that for a year, and 8% increase is about half an hour a day, and on an 8-hour day. Over a course of a year, that's 120 hours, which is 3 weeks of extra work. So having not been facilitating that impact for long enough to know what that 8% actually looks like, I'd just be making assumptions.
Yeah.
But the research suggests that when you do align people with that, when you give them an opportunity to work to their strengths, to adopt that culture of continuous improvement, then studies suggest that you can get up to 8% improvement on productivity.
That is massive. Because we're talking about business owners here, builders, they're always looking at their margins and their markups. And it's like, well, mate, imagine creating a culture and a business where people had better satisfaction and you could increase your profits, or your turnover 8%, which would then leverage better profits.
And safety.
Yeah.
Right? If you got like more empathetic leadership and a culture that actually supports one another and calls people out when we're crossing lines of standards that we don't want to cross the lines of, then you have less incidents.
And also I think you wouldn't have the cost of losing employees and having to retrain. You'd rather be just what's the term, promoting from within.
And I think there was I'm not sure of the exact number, but I think it's like to employ a new team member costs 1.5 times what it actually costs to retain someone. So if you pay someone 50 grand, it actually costs you 75 grand if that person leaves, to acquire them, to train them up, to still pay them 50 grand. So like you said, what's the cost of inaction, of not creating that culture? I don't have the numbers, but on maybe like a small startup with 4 people, you probably don't feel it as much, but that's probably when it's so important, because your bottom line is your margins are so small.
For sure.
And it is so important if you want to scale, or even if you just want to create more profit for yourself and your family and your business.
But I think also if you can get your culture right from the beginning, rather than having to try and uproot that tree, to change things down the track.
Or lift the tree up and try and replant it.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine that. A few riggers and doggers.
What is it? I was going to touch on it, but you've already talked about it, really. That idea of asking your team the right kind of questions. Which you talked about earlier in terms of bringing their values in alignment with the businesses, is about asking them those same whys, or going those 5 whys deep. Man, I feel like we could talk all day, Blake. I'm really enjoying this. For the listeners, for the builders out there and others that will be listening to this, business owners or just, high achieving people, who want to grow and build their mental fitness, what are some tools that they could take away? One might be the 5 whys. Stop long enough to write those down on paper. Actually do it. Don't just say, I'm going to do that, and then don't.
The 2 things that come to mind, my most passionate avenues of teaching and coaching are health and belief. Helping you to find that belief in yourself, and health, because without it, nothing else matters. Right? So with health, I think the most important thing is just get back to the basics. One I was talking about the other day was removing just packet food, right? Like, I think the most apparent thing to me in all my coaching and research and healing myself over the last 3 years has been sleep's number one, but setting yourself up for a good sleep. So to be really specific on a tool, if you don't have a diffuser, if you don't have lavender, buy it, diffuse it every single night. It's not fluffy, it's not woohoo, it's not some girl essential oil bullshit. It'll help you feel better, help you perform better, help you be a better person, because you'll get a better night's sleep. You stress less, you'll eat less shit food. And a magnesium-based supplement. So incorporate those 2. If you want to go down another quick little tip on that, I've been listening to the Delta wavelength audio. So I put that on like a sleep timer on Spotify for an hour, and that frequency has been shown to help you to put you in a deeper state of sleep. So the last 2 weeks of doing that, I've been dreaming every night, and it's been really, really cool, feeling refreshed. The vision one, so sleep, diffuser, lavender, magnesium-based sleep supplement, and Delta
when do you take the magnesium-based supplement?
At nighttime. So basically, once the easiest way to do it is couple it with your shower routine. So if you're going for a shower, have the capsule before you get in, or if you're going to have a powder, have it before you brush your teeth, and dilute it with water. The other one, which is vision, is to take any goal that you have, whether it's career or personal, and ask yourself why. So we've created an acronym for that, which is, the W is, what's the impact? What's the impact of achieving that goal? What will it have on your life, on your family, on your business? The second part is the H. How will that feel when you achieve it? And too often we're in the fast-moving world that we live in, we're so disconnected from our own emotions, and we're so far removed from our vision or the things that we want to achieve that we don't actually know what it's going to feel like when we get there. So sit with that. What will it feel like when you are able to employ 50 people? What will it feel like when you're able to take 2 weeks leave from your business? When you're able to go on that little family vacation or run that Voki Ultra that you wanted to run, right? Like, how will that actually feel?
Yeah.
You'll feel enthusiastic. You'll feel proud. Maybe what will your kids say? What will your wife say? What will your mum and dad say? And then the last part of that is the other end of the spectrum, is your consequences. So the why is your consequences of inaction.
Yeah.
What if you do nothing about it? What's life look like in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, if you do absolutely nothing about it? It's a pretty good motivator. Pain's a pretty good motivator. So lean into that. So that's the why framework. So take any goal you have, ask yourself why. What's the impact? How will it feel? And your consequences of inaction. And then write it down and go and do it. Share it with the world.
Blake, thank you very much. Very, very much for today, man. Where can people find you?
So Evocativ, EVOCATIV.com.au. Evocativ on LinkedIn, Instagram, spelled the same way with just an underscore at the end. Yep. Or my name's Blake.Bradford on LinkedIn or Instagram. Happy to have a conversation and support you and your team, or just throw some chat or go for a run.